Hey, welcome to Brokers Uncensored, where we talk about real, raw real estate. I am here today with Becky Dewey, managing broker for Remax Alliance Group, and Steve Zaris. I'm Shad Boucher. We have got about 75 years of experience in the real estate industry between us, and we are here to basically break down things as we see it, get into the real estate. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, because let's be honest, August is moving month for most agents. They start looking at other places to move their business. Obviously, their business is not doing as well as they want, and this is about the month where they start staring at other options. And we wanted to talk today because what we're all hearing is, do you offer leads? And we wanted to talk today about the myths and the truths and why necessarily getting quote unquote free leads is a big lie. So, who wants to start this off?
Becky, you want to start or you want me to start?
Go ahead, Steve.
All right. We've kind of talked about this before.
Yeah.
When you're provided leads by a brokerage, you're paying them money for those leads because you're not making as much money per deal, whether you be on a 50-50 split or whatever it might be. And again, it comes down to, well, if you learn how to do it yourself, you can do half the number of deals and make the same money. And if you master it, you'll make a lot more money. So I just, again, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, feed him how to fish, feed him for a lifetime.
Yeah, it's sort of teach him to fish, but whatever.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. It's
Well, no,
Friday.
I think you hit it right on the. I think you hit it right on the head, Steve. The problem with it is most agents here, we give you leads, and where most of them kind of falter is that should be the intro to you starting to ask a crap load of questions.
Yeah.
Right? Where do they come from? How are you getting them? How are they being verified? You know, in prep for this podcast this morning, I pulled up a bunch of statistics. Realtor.com says that their online leads convert at an average of 1.2%.
Yeah, I believe it.
Wow.
Zillow's around 2.
Yep.
So that puts you at 25 to 50 leads to get one closing. And all of these lead generation companies say that if you're not going to follow up a minimum of 6 to 8 times, those leads won't convert at all. So imagine all of this work you're doing. And here's the interesting thing. How do you actually sell real estate when you're glued to your phone? Because that lead you don't answer could have been the $1 million.
Yeah.
Right? And then to Steve's point, Zillow Flex right now, I believe their overhead is 40% that they take on that lead. There's companies out there that have on their billboards, we'll get you listing appointments. Oh yeah, they will.
You'll get appointments, you won't get listings.
Yeah. And if you take the listing and sell it, they keep the lion's share of the commission.
Right.
There's one company out there that we know for a fact that they pay their agents 35%. They keep the rest because they got you an appointment.
That's if they're producing. And I know who you're talking about.
Correct. That's if they're producing.
Otherwise, you're at 18%.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Correct. So if you think about it, yeah, they're setting you up on an appointment. In fact, there's one advertisement that they have with one of their agents. I closed 200 deals this year. I started doing the math and I'm like, that's not good. But I think that's one of the things that agents need to understand. And to Steve's point, teaching you to fish is what our job is.
Right.
That's what all three of us are good at.
And Chad, if I could jump in,
go.
Somebody does 200 deals. First of all, you've got no life. All you do is work. If that's the case, you got to pay somebody as a transaction coordinator. You probably have at least one assistant. So again, you can do half the work and make the same amount of money.
Less than half, I'd argue.
Yes.
Less than, you got to figure for every 3 of those deals, that's what most of our agents get paid on a split. So you basically divide 200 by 3, which is insane.
Yeah.
It's and like you said, you're working. And I think part of this is the fact that most agents they're so happy to have quote unquote verified leads
Hmm.
that they don't ask any of the questions. And they just don't want to.
And we talked a little bit about this last week, is that's a great starting point for somebody who's not in the business or whatever, but it should really be probably, and I don't know, 50% of your business. The other 50% should be you lead generating yourself with your sphere of influence and the people you know and love and want to work with, because it becomes a trap. Because how do you get out from underneath of that?
Yep.
And you have no book of business. If you were to walk away today, you are not going to have a book of business. We mentioned this last week. You
Mhm.
can't, start farming those people. Those are like locked and loaded to the team or the brokerage that you were with before. And it's hard because I've spoke with members of teams that are in this situation, and it's hard for them to get out from underneath of that situation because they are like a lost puppy dog when once they do. If they can't hop into another team or situation where they have somebody training them to generate leads, or maybe another team handing them leads, it's not a good position to be in.
Well, and imagine this. If the statistics that all these people throw out there are correct, 25 to 50 leads to do one closing. What happens when the market shifts and you're not getting 25 leads a month?
Mhm.
Hmm.
And there's not enough leads to go around. I mean, you're totally dependent on a handout. So are you an entrepreneur? Are you an employee? Who really controls your business? And and let's say that the team lead is super benevolent, right? And he's just handing them out, here, you're the next in line, you get the next lead. But we know that doesn't happen.
No.
We know that doesn't happen. You're going to get, until you prove yourself, you're going to get the garbage leads
Right.
and then go work them. And so, that's one of those things that, when the market shifts and goes down, who's in control of your business?
Hmm.
You're not. And to Becky's point, I have a recruit right now, and the one thing that's holding him from coming to us is he's fighting with his broker to get his production from the team shifted under his name. Now the MLS will do it, but they need a letter from the team lead and the broker, and the team lead isn't wanting to give him that letter
No, they're not going to do that.
because then the team lead loses the production.
Yep.
So he's been doing this for 15 years and he might as well be a ghost.
Yes.
Right.
He might as well be a ghost. And that's the major problem with all of that is who really controls your business. So, is it an answer in the short term? Maybe.
Hmm.
Is it an answer in the long term?
Right.
Probably not.
No.
And I don't know if you guys have noticed, like I see some teams that do this and they're very successful teams, but they're boasting what their buyer's agent's volume is.
Yes.
And they're killing it as far as volume goes. They're
Yeah.
they're killing it. They're obviously, they can obviously bring it to closing. They're great agents, that kind of
Yep.
thing. But at the end of the day, what's their bottom line? What are they actually making? To me,
That's it.
I don't need
Yeah.
a plaque on the wall. Give me a check. That's my thought
Yes.
process. A lot of people want the glory and the recognition, and that's great too,
Nope.
for your hard work. I get that. But at the end of the day, what is their bottom line and what did they actually take home after they paid Zillow and their team leader and all of this
Hmm.
stuff?
And let's
Probably very small percentage.
Yeah, and
Right.
let's be honest. When you have that kind of volume, and you've got a large split, well, you're putting that many more miles on your car,
Hmm.
that much more gas. I
Yep.
mean,
Your overhead.
yeah, there's a lot of money in expenses that you have to cover. So yes, you're making more money, but you're also spending more money. And maybe you go through a car every 5 years. Now you're going through a car every 3 years, or whatever that works
Right.
out to be.
Well,
Hmm.
I just had a conversation with an agent that does Cartus relocation. And you guys are all familiar with Cartus relocation. They give you they give you great appointments. These people have to work with you if they want their package from their
Yeah,
corporation.
Hmm.
But you take a 47% haircut
Yep.
yeah,
off the top. He was a $10 million producer and his GCI last year was $61,000.
yeah.
Holy cow.
It should be three times that.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yes. And here's the interesting thing. He's afraid that he can't replicate that on his own. I said, you're talking like $3 million in business. I said, you have to know enough people to support that. And he's like, I just don't feel confident. I don't feel confident. I'm like, okay, good luck. You're trapped.
Yeah.
You're completely trapped. And that's what I think a lot of these people, when I look at it, this whole process of giving leads to agents is almost like a retention mechanism through
Hmm.
fear.
Well, you know what
Yeah.
that's going to lead to, Shad? It's going to lead to a broker not paying large splits, and you're basically going to wind up a W-2 employee at some point because all you're going to be doing is showing people houses.
Right. Well, and there's already brokerages that do
Do
that.
that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you're not
There's already
selling.
brokerages that do that.
Yeah.
And I just did a deal with a brokerage in December where the buyer was shuffled between three separate people. So it was
Yeah.
one agent that showed the property, it was another agent that wrote the contract and negotiated it, and then that agent passed it to a TC, and then that TC passed it to a closing agent.
I will say
And
when I had some big teams, that was probably one of the biggest complaints from the consumer was is I never even talked to the agent, you
yep.
know? And that's, I mean, and in the mindset of a lot of those large team leaders, they're not incubating those people and building
Mm-mm.
that relationship. They're a number. I
They're
mean, they have an
transactional.
opportunity to build a referral network off of the hundreds of transactions they're doing a year to just a number. They're like a machine.
And
And I
Becky,
think
if
Yeah.
I
they're
could
missing a
praise, if
huge
I could praise you,
opportunity.
if I could praise you for a moment, Becky.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
oh,
I know Shad
don't do
won't, so
that.
I'll
Don't
take
do
it from
that.
you.
Don't do that.
You said a key word in what you just said, and that is relationship. This is a
Hmm.
Yep.
relationship business. And
Yep.
anything outside of that, you're making a mistake. You've
Yeah.
got to develop those relationships. You've got to have repeat business. You've got to have referrals from your customers, your
Yep.
family, and your friends. I don't know. It's probably been over 10 years since I've done a deal with a lead because I stopped paying for leads. They weren't working out. I was spending more than I was making.
Hmm.
Didn't make sense for me.
Well, and most
Yeah.
people just don't understand that, there's two avenues for business in this industry. One's transactional, which is what we're talking about today, and the other is relationship, which we've touched on. Transactional business is absolutely vulnerable to
Yeah,
market shift.
yeah,
Hmm.
It is 100% vulnerable to market shift because you're not in control of the incoming lead flow. And versus you've got a database of relationships, you just got to make more phone calls. You got
Right.
to talk to them more often.
yeah.
You've got to go out there and find more people. So that's it, but you can still have a great year.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with transactional is, you know, last year we were getting 55 leads a month from Oodle Boodle or whoever we're paying for leads. And this year we're getting 7.
Yeah. And I think some of those companies are really struggling right now too. So the uncertainty to put all your eggs in one basket is a little scary.
Well, and
That
and
is
think
right.
about it, there's a lot of brokerages that I know that, like, to Becky's point, was on paper they look like they're killing it,
Hmm.
right? But when you find out what their overhead is to get all these incoming leads and all that, they're making less than a $2 million producing agent, and you're like, what
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
why are we doing this? Yeah, you did 1,000 transactions last year. That's amazing. But
Right.
you literally were spending $500,000 a month to generate that.
Yeah.
What are
That's
you doing?
exactly true. Yep. So
Wow.
here's a cool story I'll tell you. So, because things kind of evolve and come together at the same time. So I've been part of the Buffini and Company program and mentor for 15 years or more. So it's interesting because two of my agents, and this was not prompted, they both came to me at two different times in two different offices, and they were like, you know what? I really am not good about tracking this, but I wanted to tell you because I know you always hear the bad stuff. I wanted to tell you the good stuff. 85%, one of them was 85% of my business is repeat and referral business. The other one, she figured out it was like 75%. And I'm like,
Yeah,
and at this stage in your career, that's exactly where you want your business to
that's
be.
right.
And, it's like I tell the agents, and I'm like, I don't tell you to recommend you half-ass anything, but really, I am like a believer in that program. I think it's easy. I think it's non-confrontational. You're dealing with people you already know, love,
Yep.
and have worked with before. So it's not that, fear of the phone of picking up and cold calling someone. And and it's a weed and feed situation on your database and that kind of thing. But it's just nurturing them, and and again, it's that relationship. You want these people to be your walking billboard. Um, and that's a cool. And I tell them, if you half-ass it, you're going to see results. I'm not suggesting that you do that, but,
Right.
and they've been at it for, I mean, I think the one, my Marcos, I think she did it like 13 or 14 years ago. And
Yeah.
she still sticks with it. And she's
Yeah.
like my poster child. I'm like, tell us about it. Tell us how you did it. And then she hopped on with the coaching with Buffini and Company. And she did. So, I mean, and they both have been consistently following that program. And it's so easy to do. It's not like rocket science. It doesn't suck the life out of you. It doesn't,
No.
again, the fear of the phone and I got to make all these cold calls and that kind of thing. It's so easy. It's just getting consistent and doing the process.
And
Yeah.
there you just hit the nail on the head. It's getting consistent.
Mm-hmm.
99% of agents do not have a schedule, do not stick to it, do not wake up at a consistent time in the morning, do not have a process. They're absolutely seat of their pants every day, which is why they want incoming phone calls, because they don't want to actually wake up every morning and do what they need to do. They're basically they're proactive when they have somebody to work with,
Mm-hmm.
but they're completely reactive when it comes to getting them.
Yeah. And
Well,
the problem
Shad, I
is it
always
needs to
say
be
every
done
morning.
consistently because they usually only jump on board. They're like, oh my God, my business is lacking. I'm really slow
Yeah.
right now. Let me get back on track and let me do it for 60 days. Oh, and then they start seeing results and then that stuff goes by the wayside again. It needs to be consistency of a consistent flow so you have no dip in your business.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I say that every morning in this business, you are unemployed. And
Broke
Yep.
and
some folks
unemployed.
are really unemployed because they don't, they're not operating under the, let's use the word consistency,
Yeah.
on a
Mm-hmm.
consistency basis. And therefore, they have those peaks and valleys. And sometimes those peaks are getting farther and farther apart.
Yep, they absolutely are. I use the word intentional and proactive. And
Yes.
that's what I preach with every single agent. I'm like, well, yeah, you've got an intentional and proactive problem. And and like I said, find an agent that will give me a written schedule that they follow on a daily basis, and I'll give you $100,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
most people just don't. And it's funny because I get agents that come to me like Becky was saying, my business is off track. What do I do? That's the first place I start with them.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see your schedule. Let me see what you're doing every day.
Right.
Well, I have it in my head. Well, then you're screwed
Yeah.
because you're
Well, I always
reacting.
recommendation, even it's 1 hour a day. Take
Yep.
1 hour a day. You wake up in the morning, you grab your cup of coffee, you sit at your desk before you open your emails, you start checking your Facebook, your social media, any of that, and you nail down and you do 1 hour's worth of money making activities, and
Yep.
the rest of the day is cake.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't
True.
get most agents to do that.
No.
You can't get them to follow a plan. And let's say to your analogy, Becky, it's an hour, right?
Hmm.
They waste 45 minutes just trying to figure out what they're going to do.
Right.
They're not working from a plan. They're not working from a structure. And versus, I've got an agent here in my one office who beats me into the office every morning, 3 days a week, 7:15. He's on the phone. He's making his expired calls. He
Hmm.
makes those calls. And it's interesting,
I've got
funny
one
joke.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know exactly how the calls are doing because when he has a bad call, he walks up the hallway and gets a wintergreen lifesaver. And then he walks back the hallway to his office again. So I know the morning's going well when I don't see him.
Hmm.
Um, and it's, when I see him 3 or 4 times, not so well.
Right.
He is actually costing me about $1 million a year in wintergreen lifesavers. But, hey, it is what it is. In fact, my admin is at the store right now buying more. Um, but that's one of those things that I think most people don't realize is everybody in the office. Well, how's he doing so well? I said, come here at 7:15
Yeah.
and you'll find out.
I have one of those too. He's a machine.
Yeah,
Machine. He comes in, closes the door, and you're like, he's in there. And then about 1 o'clock, boom, he's out on listing appointments.
right.
And then you don't see him for the rest of the day.
And that's the same thing this one does. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he makes his calls. Tuesday, Thursdays, he's on the listing
Hmm.
appointments that he generated from the calls. Yep. 100%. And everybody thinks and he's good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
His skills are amazing. He's good. He's not magic.
No.
But everybody else thinks he's basically magic, which is nuts.
Well, you have to have a particular type of personality to call expireds because number one, those sellers are already disappointed that their home didn't sell. They're
Yes.
probably upset and mad at realtors in general for whatever
Sure.
reason or another. So I mean, you already have a couple obstacles against you, so that's when you really need to have that type of personality and that, don't take
You
personal,
do. But
you
then
know.
again, it really comes down to, it doesn't matter if his personality or script works really well. If he's not consistent with it, it's garbage.
Right. True.
So,
Yep.
all right.
Yeah.
So I think in closing, if you're going to move this season, it's great. Do what you need to do for your family and your business. But when somebody says they're going to give you leads, you need to start asking questions. Where are they coming from? How are they being nurtured? Who's expected to call them back? What are we paying to do this? What's it costing me to have them? All of these things, I find that generally speaking, there's two mindsets in agent culture. The one moves their business to save money. The other moves their business to make money.
Yep.
And unfortunately, when they move their business to save money is usually when they find themselves trapped in this quagmire. So anything else you guys would like to end with before we kind of wrap this up?
Nope, that was great. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I think this is a very critical topic for anybody that's watching this. You really need to reach out to us and maybe have a one-on-one because this is important for your career. At
Hmm.
the end of the day, you're building your business, and this is a very critical part.
Yep.
Great topic,
Absolutely.
Shad.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very
Good
much.
job.
If you guys want to leave anything down in the comments below, please like and subscribe. We basically just bring you this content every single week from three brokers that have seen it, done it. And we're just trying to basically make sure you guys don't have to trip over the same rocks that we have and appreciate it. And we will see you next week.